The Buzz with Jess Lujan.
We're back in the studio. Yes, of course, former Senator Frank Ishizaki, and we're talking about the Guam's financial situation. Senator, prior to going to break, we're talking about police presence. Now, maybe they're all in unmarked cars at this point, and could be so, but I don't see as much presence as in the past.
Well, the numbers have dwindled, and that's very evident. You're seeing it. The people are seeing it. But I commend the chief and the lieutenant governor. They create all these task forces and they draw from other agencies, which is kind of goes back to, remember we had a discussion about consolidation, reorganization.
Yeah.
So one of the bills that we talked about in the 29th Guam legislature
that's right.
was reorganization.
Sure.
So I introduced two bills.
All to come as one, under one premise, right?
So I introduced two bills. One was housing, and the other was public safety.
Public safety, yeah.
Because when I joined the police department in 1971, I worked for the Department of Public Safety, and I didn't see a problem with that. During crises and emergencies, the firemen may be out there directing traffic, and I know the firemen didn't want to do that, but you had staffing issues, and during a critical emergency, like right after a typhoon, or before a typhoon, after a typhoon, we need all hands on board. And the risk during a typhoon, it rains so much, the risk of fire is very minimal. So I thought, let's use the firemen, and the director then did that. So I had no problem with doing cross training and deputizing people to do multifunctions, and I thought that was a great way to extend our resources.
Well, I know one of the issues in the consolidation in regards to that they argued against basically was the fact that like for example for housing, one was 100% federally funded versus local funding and the commingling and all that. And it's true that was an argument used, but I think that was a reasoning used not to do it as well.
Well, I see, consolidate reorganization is difficult. You know that Uncle Sam tried to do it over many decades, and the only time Uncle Sam was able to do an effective consolidation was after 9/11, because the trauma, the attack from terrorism was so horrendous that they were able to create this Department of Homeland Security, and they moved all these agencies into DHS. And it might take that. A calamity. That was a calamity, and people said, "Okay, we'll give the president what he wants."
Well, when you're talking about calamity at this point, I mean, we just have to look at Puerto Rico at this point, and are we that close to being Puerto Rico? I hope and pray we're not. We're not. The administration says we're not. But in regards to our borrowing and per individual, what we have to pay for over the years, we are almost surpassing what individuals in Puerto Rico have to pay for to be back again what is owed by their government. So that being said, are we close? It feels close. It has all the qualities of being very close. So now, if we don't do it ourselves, if we don't go into a financial diet or trim the way we do things, now we may have again a federal receivership that will trim anyway, regardless of what we say.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
But you look at Puerto Rico; they spent way more than they could, and they borrowed way more than they should. And economic conditions changed.
That's right.
So some of the manufacturing companies left. And then their bonds were just not sustainable.
That's right.
And so they declared bankruptcy, and Uncle Sam bailed them out in a form of promesa, right?
That's right, promesa.
So what is promesa?
Yeah. A promise?
Yes, but it's Uncle Sam going into running Puerto Rico's finances.
That's right, and we are lumped into them. So promesa, we're not unsplashed. We are splashed with that, and we're included. We're included in that. So, the bond market, everyone else is, they're keeping an eye out, and it's again, I don't know where they got this, but the fact remains. I mean, you read that report of the EU now saying that we're a tax haven. Now,
I think that's pretty crazy.
I mean, that's real crazy. That's real crazy. But I'm just saying, I mean, why not, right? Why not lump them in on that, right? I mean, I don't know where that came from, but it's things like this that do not help us at all,
Absolutely. But, going back to Puerto Rico, right? One of the biggest problems Puerto Rico has, on top of all the financial and the negative balances they have, is that people that are able to get jobs, they're leaving.
They're leaving. That's right.
They're leaving.
Yeah.
So this hurricane that came, it just magnify the problem.
And going back to, again, to what I'm saying is that we're hearing again and I'm sure you hear this as well. I'm sure your students are saying, man, I'm offered something better over there. Or maybe just the same, but you know what? Maybe I'm just gonna try that. So our tax base, the tax base is going to be leaving. And then when we get people coming in here, we get immigrants coming in here, we got migration coming in here, and you don't blame them. They want better for their families as well. So we get entry-level people coming in here. I mean, when we look at areas, when we compare areas, say for example, California, whatever it may be, right? Compare areas, well, we're the same size. Well, when the demographics the same, our salaries the same. I mean, we got a proposition a proposal, by superintendent now saying, hey, look, 325 million, we'll just split it in half, GMH this, we have this, 5 years, raise the business privilege tax to this, and I'm going, dude, what are you talking about? I mean, it's not as easy as that. It's not just 1%, it's 20%, and it's not 5 years, because if you're going to borrow to build something, the payout is not a 5-year, and if it's over 5 years, nobody can afford the payback for 325 million. It's closer to $1 billion.
But remember, this was done before, not too long ago, during I think your term in the 28th, because I wasn't in the 28th, is there was an agreement between the legislature and the governor to raise the GRT to 6%. Remember that?
We weren't. The Republicans weren't a part of it.
Yeah,
the Republicans
but
weren't
it was
part of it.
to raise it from 4 to 6%,
Sure.
and to borrow, and to balance the finances. And then as soon as it started, what happened?
Yeah.
The people said 6%. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So that 6% raise was quickly repealed. I think within maybe 6 months.
About 6 months, because we were out there almost simultaneously to it being passed on law and signed into law. Is that we were out there, the 6 of us were out there, with our signs to roll back the GRT. We had one Democrat that voted with us, Senator Respicio, that voted with us. But in general, yeah. And as a result, in the 28th, the Republicans took the majority. We took the majority. The speaker was defeated from the 27th going into the 28th. So the people didn't want that. People didn't want that. I mean, and the same people that you're trying to help with this are the same people that you're really hurting.
Yeah, it's really difficult. This is raising taxes.
Sure.
Raising taxes. I know I have friends in business that say, well, let's not raise GRT. Let's change GRT to a sales tax. So it would be a value-added tax.
Yeah.
And then it'd be a sneak. To me, I said, that's a sneaky tax. Yeah. Because it's 4%, right? But it's actually going to raise revenue because it's going to be a little more. But the problem is, the business owners don't pay for this.
Of course not.
Everything's a pass-through.
It's pass-through.
So
whether it be products or services.
The consumers pay for it.
Sure.
And the people are paying way too much for gasoline.
Sure.
They're paying way too much for groceries.
Sure.
And spam.
Yeah.
And so we don't, people barely eat.
Yeah.
And then you got to send kids to school.
That's right.
So how do you pay for that? And so even if you raise things 1% or 2%, it's still painful.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, even when you look at businesses, not all businesses are equal. The bigger the businesses are, the more they can avail themselves to wholesale prices. If you're just mom and pop down the street and you're just a convenient for the 2 blocks maybe that you service, you go buy maybe a case or 2 cases of Spam, right? And you're not a wholesaler. You go buy it at retail.
That's
okay,
right.
and so when that retailer you buy it from raises it because of the business privilege tax, how much more are you going to be? And you're just a convenient for your neighborhood patrons, okay, as opposed to the bigger organizations. So it's passed along, whether services and or products, and the same people again that you're wanting to help are the same people that you're hurting.
Absolutely. And I know people at GMH are mad at me because I'm not opposed. I love GMH. We need to fix GMH. But this idea to borrow 125 mil?
Well, at this point,
does that work?
and we talked about this on the phone on the weekend, right? We were talking about, yes, look, I mean, I'm all for infrastructure enhancement, and those are my borrowing components for infrastructure because it creates jobs. But if we've used all our borrowing component for everything else, and then now that we need them for infrastructure, we can't anymore at this point, that's the problem. If these were the first things that we did them for, then okay. But because those are the first things we did them for, now it's not okay. We can't. And you know, whether you appoint czars or superintendents at this point, they're nothing but lobbyists to go in there and try to get the senators to pressure him in trying to approve this. I got to take a quick break.